Today we are going to be talking about the traumatizing case of Sydney Powell and her mother, Brenda Powell. So, Sydney had been kicked out of Mount Union University, and she didn't come clean about her failure and her lack of performance in her studies. So, instead of just telling her parents about her being kicked out of school, she decided to just hide it from them. So, she hid it from them for months, and she would live in a hotel room pretending that she was off at school. Her mother would question her about school and ask about her grades, her performance, her classes, and Sydney would just lie about how she was doing, would lie about going to class. She would say things like, I'm going to class with my friend Lauren. It just became this huge lie. So on March 3rd, 2020, Brenda actually contacted the school officials because she became kind of suspicious of what was going on. And that's when she learned about Sydney's school performance and how she was no longer part of the school. While still on the phone, Sydney grabbed a frying pan and hit Brenda in the back of the head. Sydney knew that wasn't going to kill her, and so she grabbed a steak knife and stabbed her mother in the neck 30 times. The crazy thing was that her mother was still on the phone with the school, so the person on the other line heard the entire attack. The woman said she heard a loud thud followed by screams. Then Sydney got on the phone and said, "This is Brenda." The woman on the other line knew it wasn't Brenda, and she said, "I think this is Sydney." And then the phone went dead. The woman was obviously so worried and knew something wasn't right, so she called the police and explained what had happened, what she had heard on the phone, and asked them to go check up on Brenda to make sure everything was okay. The police arrived and saw the bloody scene. Sydney tried to blame an intruder. She had broken a window, hoping that it would just throw off investigators and they would just assume somebody came in and stabbed her mother 30 times in a really gruesome, horrible way. She truly thought she was going to get away with this murder, but it did not work. In court, she seemed to be extremely, extremely distraught. She cried the entire trial. However, we aren't sure if Sydney was just putting on a performance to make people believe that she had remorse, or if she actually had remorse and she was horrified and appalled by the actions she took that horrific evening. When her father, Steve Powell, went and testified, he shared that his daughter and his wife were inseparable, that they had a great relationship and they were really good friends. Her defense team tried to convince the jury that she was dealing with severe mental illness, and that is why she stabbed her mother. She was just going through a psychotic break. The defense team claimed that she was schizophrenic, and that is what caused her to commit such a gruesome crime, seemingly out of nowhere and for what seems to be a very minuscule reason. However, when prosecution questioned her father, he informed the court that she had never mentioned any mental illness, never told him, and he said that his wife had never mentioned anything, so Sydney had never told his wife anything, so he had no knowledge of this schizophrenic diagnosis that she says she has. You would think that if you were dealing with something so prominent and so serious as schizophrenia, that there would be signs that your parents would notice, or you would divulge some information to them, or you're seeking help. I don't know if you just have a psychotic break without having any previous signs. But I'm not a psychiatrist, so maybe it is possible. I just feel like it's too convenient to all of a sudden have such an extreme mental illness when it benefits you the most. Unfortunately for Sydney, the jury did not believe that she was schizophrenic and didn't believe that the reason she killed her mom was because she was in a psychotic episode. An expert for the prosecution said that Sydney was absolutely in the right mind. She didn't just stab her mother once. She stabbed her 30 times in the neck. She wanted her to die. The prosecution said that she was in the right mind because she was with it enough to try to hide the evidence and cover her tracks. It is unlikely that if she would have done this in a psychotic episode, that she would have tried to hide what she had done. Many people who have psychotic episodes or are found innocent because of an insanity plea are found and are proud of the crimes that they committed because they don't think they did anything wrong. For example, there was a mother who cut off her baby's arms, and when the police had arrived, she was listening to hymns, reading the scriptures, and proudly told the police that her baby's arms were cut off because God had asked her to do it. This was not the case for Sydney. She knew what she had done was wrong, and she tried to hide it. The one I feel sorry for the most in this entire situation is absolutely 100% Steve Powell. He was happily married to his beautiful wife. She was a specialist in a nearby hospital. She was doing great, and he lost his wife, and then he had to testify against his daughter, and that would just be, that'd be so heartbreaking and just horrible. In the end, Sydney Powell was sentenced to life in prison for her mother's murder. She will be eligible for parole after 15 years. The case is just so wild to me. There's just no closure for anybody because they're from the same family. There's no closure for the victims, and there's really nothing that can help with this absolute heartbreak. All right, that's it for me, you guys. Thanks for watching. The Crime Happens Here. Stay safe and be kind. Bye.